Why Japan so dynamically changed after Meiji Restoration? You said only 100 years Japanese tried to go outside for
Right.
colonialism.
Well, so actually, and this is why I like this video, is that it makes me think maybe it had to do with the fact that Japan was basically after the Meiji Restoration, they had a very large class of very influential people, and who were warriors, and if they wouldn't give them something to do outside of Japan, they would put their energy maybe into Japan, and they could potentially destabilize Japan itself. So instead of doing that, Japan started to focus their attention outside, and they started to invade Manchuria, Korea, etc., etc.
They tried to do the same thing like a British. They tried to copy overseas colonialism.
Yeah, maybe. I think that in Japan's case, okay,
Like
there was an
current
economic interest, of course.
coronavirus, the Japanese government tried to make a copy overseas what they are doing.
Right.
They tried to shut down the country because American did, Russian did, India did, so we did. And also they tried to copy the brutal, invasion for Chosen, right? Korea.
But in this case, actually, they're going exactly the opposite way, right? They're going against England. They're going against
same thing like British did in India, to copy India to doing in Chosen.
Right, but by doing that, they are not. I think what Japan is trying to do at the moment is trying to be a member of international society. But when they are, for example, invaded Korea, they were actually going against international society. So that's not really typical.
Oh, this is as you know, the Japanese cannot speak English, so not like British, not like America. Japanese cannot say any excuse.
But what drove them? I mean, okay, that is. But one step before that, what drove them to actually even desire this kind of expansion? Was it simply copying them, or was there some kind of pent-up energy that actually needed to get out in order to, in the best interest of Japan? So I know that the feeling that perhaps it was this energy from the samurai class that still was very influential within Japan that drove Japan to become more nationalistic, simply because if they wouldn't have done that, that energy would have turned against the state and therefore the authorities, and that would have been destabilizing Japan. Maybe that was more important than anything else. Not copying what anybody else was doing, but basically making sure that all these military forces would not be aimed at the country itself, but at the countries surrounding Japan.
The Japanese government tried to make a copy from England, but actually result is different. They do not understand completely what exactly did in India.
But what you were saying is that actually the government drove this. What I would argue is that perhaps the government didn't drive this. Perhaps this was driven by the military and condoned by the government, because otherwise they were afraid that they would lose their position.
No. Korea is not the military. This is the government. Manchuria is also military involved, but before creating country Manchuria, after that their government tried to control, they tried to manage those areas, not military.
So the interest of the government was basically to basically just only copy what the British were doing?
They tried to do that, but actually result is different. This is one thing.
Okay, so that could be one scenario. The other scenario, so that is your scenario. So my scenario would be to say, okay, maybe Japan didn't have so much interest in actually going to Manchuria and going to Korea. The interest was more in order to channel the energy away from Japan into foreign countries, because they were afraid that otherwise it might implode.
I don't understand.
Well, there's a lot of pent-up energy into Japan after the Meiji restoration, right? The emperor takes a seat. There is no longer a shogun. Basically, the shogun class, the samurai class has been decapitated. There is no longer a head there. And they do not actually easily find their way back into society. They are impoverished relative to the lowest class of the merchants who become an economic success. And now the samurai class is trying to reassert its society, this position in society. Now, since they are warriors, they could easily cause problems for stability in Japan, meaning that they could organize themselves and create a coup d'etat against society, an uprising to restore the shogunate within Japan. Instead, the government thought, okay, well, this is actually a threat to our country and to the stability of our country. We need to channel this energy not into Japan, but outside Japan. And that's why they started to look outside and expand their influence, not because they had the imperial desire, but more desire to actually channel all the energy away from their own position and pointing them into a different direction.
Maybe you feel strange on my opinion is, but at that time Japanese not try to invade outside Japan. They just Japanese feel threat from Russia's invasion down to the peninsula. So that's the reason why Japanese combined Chosen. And that's the reason why they tried to invade Manchuria against Russia.
Well, it's I don't feel that strange actually, and maybe this is the perfect time to put this to a little bit of a wider perspective and look at the next video, because that is actually about the Japan-Russo War. Let's have a look at that, because I think that will make it clearer.
Oh, okay, let's do it. We're going to show next one, right?
Yeah, yes, please.
This one?
Yes.
This one?
There is actually a very detailed one about the Russian war, but that's more of a military one. It's kind of nice actually. If you want to see it, I recommend it.
I saw a lot.
This is about the military conflict itself, the sea battle.
So, what's the issues you propose?
Oh, the issue here is that actually through the eyes of West, Japan was imperialistic. They were aiming to exercise their influence, aiming to go out, not just coincidentally, but so I was wondering where did this come from? Why did this happen? Because Japan didn't have any urge to do this until then. Thousands of years they have been living in isolation quite happily. So why all of a sudden they decide to try and go out and go into Manchuria, Korea, and other parts of Asia? Doesn't really make sense if you look at it in the longer perspective.
Me neither.
So
Manchuria, I understand. Okay, Japanese government feel big threat Russia coming down, occupying China, and threat for Japan, like going down to Korea. And
they were not directly
and that time is all over the world. Every country chasing for colonialism. Japan also want to Chosen, want to Manchuria.
So what you're saying, this was a preemptive strike?
Yeah. Just to try to make a cooperate with British.
No, I don't think so.
They try to share the world. America also invading Philippines, right?
No, I think Japan was a little bit more sassy than
1899, and going to the east. America occupied Philippines.